Thank you all again so much for joining the Prokeep office hours session today. You have myself, Josh Godwin, a member of the customer success team here, as well as Scott Magno, who is an enterprise onboarding coach here at Prokeep. So we'll go ahead and kick things off just with a couple housekeeping items. So that way, for all of you who have joined for the first time today, have an understanding of what to expect. So for today's webinar session via Zoom, all attendees are muted upon joining. However, we do absolutely encourage that you pose questions through Zoom using the Q&A option, which is in the lower center portion of your screen. If you have a question, please go ahead and use that throughout today's session and submit it in there. Additionally, we'll answer those questions towards the end of today's session. We'll have about 15 to 20 minutes remaining at the end to answer any of those questions. And all of the attendees on today's webinar can vote on those questions. So that way, the more votes a question receives, Scott and I know which one is most top of mind for those folks on today's session. And then lastly, the call is recorded, and we will be sending that out alongside the deck that we reviewed during our webinar today in about 2 to 3 days to all folks who registered for today's webinar, regardless of whether or not they attended. Scott, I'll go ahead and turn it over to you, sir, and thank you in advance for taking some time out of your day to help educate our customers on the value and how best to use and take advantage of Prokeep.
Thank you very much, Josh. I really appreciate that. Again, thanks so much, everybody, for joining us today. Really, really excited to have this opportunity to demonstrate Prokeep for those of you and really talk about the value that we bring here. So the value of Prokeep consists of three really amazing areas here that are going to help you and your team be successful, going to help you be more efficient, and really ease the process of communicating and doing business with your customer base. The first value is going to be that you're going to be increasing sales. You're going to have an improved customer experience for them, as well as the experience that you're going to have as well. And then also, you've got a greater productivity and visibility. All right, so increasing sales. Prokeep is going to give you the ability to increase sales by having a streamlined method of communicating with your customers. By text messaging with your customers through our platform, it's convenient because you can send these quotes and orders via text. We know that you're currently emailing or possibly even delivering these physically when they're in at the counter, what have you. But being able to text these things much quicker, much easier and faster via text message is going to be a great way to increase sales. Also, creating upsell opportunities. We know that if you have a visual text message of an order list or a picture, you have the opportunity to more quickly identify maybe a relevant product that could have even a little bit more margin. Again, add-ons as well. It's easier for you to take a text message and go back to it, refer to it, so you can properly, create upsell opportunities. Also, improving the customer experience. We know that all of your customers have a cell phone. We know that oftentimes they prefer to text message if they're able to do that. Perhaps they're even doing it now to your personal cell phones. But as we know, sending and receiving photos and written order lists is going to be a great way and a convenient way for them to do that when they're on the job site, in between job sites. Maybe they're in a crawl space or something like that. So we know that they are already doing it. So we know that being able to do that is going to be a good customer experience. Also, keeping customers aware with orders and updates via text message, proactively texting them a quick order update instead of the phone call, leaving a voicemail or crafting an email is going to be a fast way to get that information to them and avoid lengthy phone calls, especially when it gets very busy. You're going to eliminate hold times for your customers. Of course, we know that it gets very busy, but if your customers know that they can text in and still get the same sort of response, quick replies from you, they're more likely to do so and leave those phones available for other phone calls that maybe even need a little bit more than that. And of course, greater productivity and visibility. Every message is going to be saved in Prokeep. You're going to have visibility and the history of all of those there, which allows you to go back, have a higher level of accountability. It also allows you to go and collaborate with your other team members as well. It's easy to go into Prokeep and look at those conversations. And then, of course, being able to have faster replies, pickup, delivery, and order confirmations all stored in Prokeep. It's going to make you more productive, being able to have everything organized in one place. All of the scheduling and confirming of upcoming deliveries as well. It's just going to make your team better managed, more productive, and more efficient. And what we'd like to do next is talk about some of the goals for today. What we want to do is ensure that you understand the purpose of Prokeep. Some of you already do. Some of you, this might be brand new, but we want to ensure that as we go through this open office hours, that you're going to have a better understanding by the time that we're done. We're also going to do a walkthrough so we can review essential features of Prokeep through a very common use case. And then everything should be ready to go, and we want to make sure that we can answer questions regarding any of your personal preferences and any information about the location and your login. Again, we highly encourage you to utilize the interface there to add your questions, because we want to make sure that we can cover all of them as we go. All right, so next we're going to talk about how distributors are currently using Prokeep. Got a series of use cases that are going to be familiar to some of you who have customers that are already techs, but we wanted to show you how they look and present in Prokeep, and how we really hit on some of those Prokeep values that we introduced to you earlier. So this is a picture. You've got a customer that sends in requesting a stock inquiry. This could be a difficult conversation, but sending in a picture is going to really make the whole process more efficient and a better customer experience. How often do you get a pad of paper next to your telephone with a huge long list of orders that you've got to remember and make sure that you write down properly? If you get your customer here, in this case, they've sent in a picture of a list order, saving a tremendous amount of time, creating an upsell opportunity. And of course, those values that we hit, again, are a better customer experience, improved efficiency, and probably most likely better order accuracy. Now, this is a guide for a diagram or a tech. This is something that oftentimes people request. They need some warranty information, maybe an exploded view or a warranty or schematic. But being able to send a picture quickly is going to save a lot of time in that troubleshooting process for your customers. Again, providing that value of improved efficiency and creating a better customer experience for Bill Walton here. And then the quick order update message. Being proactive in Prokeep is essential to your success. Being able to send a quick text message to your customer, in this case, Corey Ziegler, to let them know without any other additional information that the order is ready for pickup. Is there anything else that we can do for you here? This is going to be gold when it comes to utilizing Prokeep, not waiting for your customers. Just go ahead and utilizing it to get them those quick messages. This is going to help you build a better customer experience, and oftentimes strengthen that relationship with the customer as well. And then, of course, the last example is another one of those. Confirmation order message sent to the customer here from Bond. Your order is ready for pickup at Bay 2. Great. That's all you need. Oftentimes, the customer just wants to get that information. Oftentimes, they're waiting to get that information. And so this is going to be a really good part of their day that you've sent to them in a fraction of the time it would take for you to leave a voicemail or send an email. Again, better customer experience, upsell opportunities, and improved productivity. So those are some examples of use cases of how Prokeep is currently being used, and also hitting those value props. What we'd like to do now is take you through the process and the application itself. And while we do that, we've got some ABCs for success. These are some best practices that we're going to cover as we go through. So please look out for them. A, always make sure that you're capturing names for the contacts. You're adding this contact data. Again, you want to have good data. You want to establish a history, and you're not going to be able to go back and look at that history unless you've got an accurate contact information for the person's name, their company, etc. B, be proactive for starting conversations. Don't wait for your customers to text in. You've got a fantastic tool in Prokeep to help you send those messages out, like in some of those examples. So be proactive. Do not wait for your customers to text in to start utilizing Prokeep. And then, of course, you want to take care of your customers in an efficient way. You want to take care of your customers in the method that they prefer, and the time range and in the cadence that they use. Prokeep allows you to do that. And that being said, you want to make sure that you're claiming and closing your threads in a timely manner. You want to make sure that you're taking care of the customers, to make sure that you can, again, continue to establish confidence with them so they see that this is a valuable way to do business with you. All right, so let's have a look at what that's going to look like in the platform itself. Now, we're switching over to my personal Prokeep demo here. So for those of you who are seeing it for the first time, welcome. This is what it's going to look like. When you log into your Prokeep, you've got your own dedicated URL. And in this instance, I've got my group or location set as Pensacola. And then we've got these icons down on the left, which we are going to cover. So again, each of you are going to be logged in there at your respective counters or at your desk in Prokeep in the designated browser of your preference, Chrome, Firefox, Edge. And then we've got it set up and ready to go. Now, we know what customer has just texted in because in our thread section, we've got 3 areas: an inbox, an open thread, and a closed thread. I'm going to click on my inbox and see that I've got a customer that texted in requesting a quote. We don't know who this is yet. Actually, they did introduce themselves. It's Michael Scott from DM Plumbing. So we've got a quote request here coming from this phone number. We have not yet added the contact data, but that's something that we're definitely going to do. And then Prokeep sends an automated message letting the customer know that we've received it. When I hit claim on this thread, Prokeep sends out another automated message identifying me as the person who's reading the message, letting the customer again know that the wheels are in motion. Now, when we look up here to the threads section, you'll see that once I've claimed that, it's moved over to the open or active threads. So from this moment on, rather than a message going to a shared inbox and notifying everybody who's logged in on your team, it's going to continue notifying me. I'll see the message here. Everyone else who's logged in will see the message here. Everyone has the same visibility and functionality to every single message. And this is a great time, since I know that this is Michael Scott from DM Plumbing, to go ahead and hit create contact reminder here. Now, I must tell you that if you get a text message from an unknown phone number and it looks like spam, you can go ahead and block this. You don't have to claim it. You don't need to close it. You can go ahead and block this. But again, in this instance, we know that this is our customer, Michael Scott. So I'm going to create a contact. All right, let's put the customer's name in here. And then we also have the ability to put the company just under Mifflin Plumbing. So I'm going to go ahead and create that company. After we hit submit, we see here that whenever the text message, instead of having a phone number, we know that this is Michael Scott. We know that they're from DM Plumbing here. From this moment moving forward, anytime Michael Scott were to text in, we don't have to go through that process. Again, adding that contact data is going to be very important, but we don't have to go through that process as they will be identified every time they text in. All right, so we can take a look at the picture that they sent in here. In this case, we know that this is a quote for this. Let me see here. Get this downloaded. And now we want to start talking to the customer. Now, again, this is going to be just like texting your customers now from your personal cell phone, except you're doing it from the Prokeep interface there at the counter. I'm going to let Michael Scott know that I've got it working on it now, and then I'm going to send that straight away. We also have the ability to attach files to let the customer know, especially in this case, if they need a quote. If they needed some other information, maybe an exploded view, I have the ability to copy and paste, drag and drop, or even attach by using the attachment tool here, any of these files that you are currently emailing your customers, saving a tremendous amount of time and instantly giving Michael Scott the information that they need from the convenience of their cell phone. All right. Now, we're going to go ahead and let Michael Scott know that this is $459 out the door by texting in here. And I'm going to say, when do you need it? Right. Now, I'm going to go ahead and text back to our customer, and I can continue doing other things. I can multitask. I can answer the phone that's ringing off the hook. I can even claim another text message from the shared inbox here. This is the beauty of Prokeep, is that you can multitask and you continue doing other things. and you're there for the convenience of the customer's rate, and then also the efficiency of being able to multitask as well. When the customer replies, you will also receive another notification. So if the customer were to let me know how many they need, as soon as they do that, you'll see that there's going to be another notification that you'll receive here. Just kind of pause a little bit to see there if we can get that reply from the customer. And then boom, by today, please. All right, so we've got the response from the customer. You'll see here that we get a similar notification as we get from the inbox, visual notification, and then an audible notification through my speakers as well. But I can click on this message to tell Prokeep that I put my eyes on it, and then it will take away the visual and audible notification. And then I can say, sounds good, and then send that away. Now, if I were to be given a PO number for this, as Michael Scott might do, I can come up here and add a tag to this. This is an identifier that will allow me to add this to an existing PO. It'll allow me to categorize this particular conversation. Maybe this is Dwight's customer. But these are keywords that we're going to show you later on that you can utilize as a global search tool that will aid in helping you pull up these conversations quickly. Now, the last thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to thank the customer for their business here by using one of these customizable stock messages. And then I'm going to close the thread. Closing the thread will allow Michael Scott's next conversation to start and originate again and go to the general inbox. This is something that we really want to do as a best practice. This is the C portion of that, to ensure, again, that we've taken care of the customer and we are ready to move on and be in that ready state for the next text message. So when we close that thread, it's going to move to the recently closed threads here for easy access. I don't have to keep it open to go back to it. I see it right here. And it's also going to be archived under Michael Scott's name there in the contact list, which we're going to cover here shortly. All right, so we're done. We are ready to go. We've taken care of the customer. The next section that I want to talk about is being proactive with Prokeep. Extremely important, as I mentioned in the ABCs of success, that you're doing this early and often. So we're going to do that, and it's going to take me arguably less than probably a minute or 30 seconds to do so. We're going to go into Prokeep and click on the first icon, which is going to allow us to send an outbound message or an internal message. The outbound message is going to pull up this area here, and I can easily look for Michael Scott instead of typing a phone number that I've got to go to because we've added that contact data. Now, we also have templates and quick ways to create messaging here that are available to you in Prokeep. In this instance, I'm going to utilize this template that says that there's an order update, and I'm going to go ahead and attach the designated file that's associated or the quote that's associated with this as well. The great thing about this is, this is something that you can do pretty easily in half the time, again, as leaving a voicemail or a phone call or, crafting a clever email. We've given the information to Michael Scott. It's right here in Prokeep, and we can go back and look at 1:49 p.m. that we've got this communication there. Remember, this isn't just for you. It's for everyone on your team to go back and reference as well. Great. And then, of course, the customer replies, looks great, be around 4 p.m. Now, here's the great thing about this is we also have the ability in Prokeep to transfer these messages. We know that it's not just one of you that's going to be utilizing Prokeep. We expect every relevant member of the teams to be able to do that. So let's say that I've got to step out. Maybe I'm not going to be here, right? And I want to make sure at 4 p.m. that Michael Scott check with Ryan about this will call. Thanks. This is great because now what I'll do is I'll let Michael Scott know. And now I have the ability to take this message here and put it in my associates or another member of your team's open threads so they can be aware of this and get ready to go. And we're going to do that by clicking on these ellipses instead of closing it out, and we're going to transfer this. This is going to open up this window here from which you can start referencing a member of your team. These are Prokeep users at your particular branch or location. And then you'll be able to say, can you have this ready for Michael. This is an internal message that only Prokeep users will see on your team. And then we're going to uncheck the keep me in the loop, and we'll talk about that in a minute. And then we're going to send this away. Now, what this is going to do, it's going to take that message out of my open threads here, and it's going to place it into Ryan's open threads. So Ryan's going to be the will call manager. I can still see this thread. I can even still follow along. I can even still interact and speak to Michael Scott in this as well. I can send him back an emoji or what have you. But now when the customer replies, I will no longer be notified, as I've transferred ownership of this over to my will call manager, Ryan. Now, that being said, let's say that I want to stay in the know with this. I want to continue to make sure that this is getting taken care of. I can stay in the loop with this, right? We've got VIP customers, again, that you want to ensure, especially managers on the call. You want to still be in the know with this, so we can keep those notifications on as well by clicking on these ellipses, turning the notifications on. What this will do is this message will still be in Ryan's open threads here, but it will also give me a notification bell anytime the customer replies. So again, keep that in mind. Prokeep is a great tool for you to communicate with your customers in a streamlined method, but it's also going to be a great way for you to collaborate and make sure that everyone has their eyes, especially at times when you need to have all hands to make sure that the customer, VIP or not, is taken care of by all of you. All right, and then of course, when we're done with that, anybody can close that thread. You all have the ability to do that, whether you have ownership or not. And as that best practice, we want to ensure, again, that at least by the end of the day, when the conversations come to a natural end, you want to be closing those threads. So that's the inbox. We've talked about claiming threads. We've talked about adding the contact data. We've covered being proactive, letting the customer know in about 45 seconds that their order is ready to go. We've also transferred that thread as well. Next, we want to talk about the contact section here, and that's this third icon. Now, this is great because not only is this a Rolodex for you to look at your customers and have them in alphabetical order, the companies and customers, because we've added them in here, but in this case, if we wanted to see the history of all of the communications we've had with a particular customer, you can just type their name in here instead of scrolling all the way down alphabetically, and then it's going to pull up and it's going to turn Prokeep into a CRM. That's right. We've got information here on Michael Scott, their company. We've got information in here. We can provide notes. In here, we can create a label. If this is a specific type of customer, maybe this is an HVAC customer, we can create a red label for that. If they are past due on an invoice, we can even put notes in here as well, and then save that. Now, not just the details that we have for Mike for us to go back and reference, but we also up here, we've got the thread activity. So this is going to have the whole history of every communication that you've had in Prokeep in perpetuity. This is great because how many times do you have to go back and look for something that you wrote on a notebook? Probably a lot. Prokeep is going to save you and a lot of trees by keeping it all in Prokeep digitally. It's going to allow you to go back and reference this. How much should we quote again? You know, Michael Scott's on the phone. He's upset because we quoted him $359 on that. Well, actually, we can go back and see that we've quoted $459 right there. And again, this is going to give you a higher level of accountability, less back and forth. And it's also going to allow you to have all of this information with your team to share, to make it easy to collaborate, make it easy for them to go back and look at if you're not around, to go ahead and reference those conversations. Now, adding contacts into Prokeep is also extremely easy, especially if you have customers who are all currently texting your personal cell phone. Don't reply to them on your cell phone. Now that you have Prokeep, you can just go ahead and add them as a contact individually in the contact list here. For instance, if we've got one of our friends here named Tim Ross, he's just texted me, I can put their phone number in here. And then what I can do now is we add them. We can go ahead and check this send welcome message box. And so when we submit and add this contact, Prokeep will send them an automated message to let them know that we've just enabled texting. Now you can send text and pictures to this number. Try it out by responding to this message. So what we've seen is really effective, of course, is being able to add the contact and then going into Prokeep, and instead of replying to them on your personal cell phone, you can add them here, look at their information and update it, and then click the create message here and continue that conversation. That'll be great. And now you've transferred them off of your personal cell phone into Prokeep there. All right, so that's the contact list. Keep in mind also, you've got in the contact list, you have not just your customers in here, but you also have a listing of all of your team members. So Prokeep can also be used, as we saw when I clicked on that creation tool, for internal messaging. So if you needed to send a message to, let's say, the manager who's in the back, maybe you've got somebody working remotely, maybe your outside salesperson, or maybe your delivery drivers on Prokeep, you can go ahead and send them an internal message via Prokeep in the same manner that you would be sending an outbound message to your customers. This is a great way, again, to collaborate and to keep business-oriented communications all in one location. So again, you have the ability to contact individuals, and you also have the ability to connect with other Prokeep members within your company's locations as well, if you have multiple locations. If I wanted to text the Pensacola branch and reach all of the members of that team, or the members of maybe the Miami branch as well, you have the ability to communicate internally. All right, so that's the contact list. The next thing that we want to cover here is the global search tool. Now, as you recall, we had the ability to utilize tags whenever we wanted to categorize the conversation that we had earlier with Michael Scott. If we wanted to pull up that information quick, you can utilize the global search tool. This is going to pull up similar to a Google chat, and we can look up maybe the PO that we had, PO 234. We did tag that. So what that's going to do, it's going to pull up every instance of that that word, of that keyword in every conversation. So as you can see here, it pulled up the conversation that we just had with Michael Scott by utilizing that tag there. You also have the ability to filter between customers and threads. In this case, maybe I wanted to look up, just wanted to double check myself of Michael Scott Michael Scott said that we charge him $359. I can just search for $459 and it's going to pull it up right there. So again, the global search tool, it's a great way to look for any of those notes that we had earlier, right? For past due, it's going to pull up that based on any sort of note that we had. You can search for names, companies, any price that you quoted, and of course, those tags that we added to those conversations. All right, now the last thing that we want to show you here is going to be in the settings. Pretty straightforward here. We've got your account information and preferences, and then we've got a help section here. What we want to key in today is really going to be in the preferences. We have the ability to create those customizable stock messages that you saw me use earlier. You can utilize those here. You can also make sure that you've got your notifications set here to whatever your preference is going to be. The sound that you hear, the interval that what you hear it. We also have the ability to enable email notifications as well. Now, in the templates here, this is going to be, again, this is a little bit different than the stock messages. Managers on the call, you have the ability to create templates for your customers, or I'm sorry, for your team to utilize. That's going to make you even faster with Prokeep. You saw earlier that I had an order update template. We even have some tokens involved in there to make this more personalized as you utilize those. So again, this is really, really important to be able to utilize those there. And it's going to, just make it much easier for you to communicate, and also for you to provide maybe common language or the style of language that your company is more accustomed to utilizing. All right, and the last thing we want to show you here in the walkthrough in this section is the support and feedback section. This is a really great resource. You can also access this by clicking on the question mark on the front end as well. You've got the phone number and email to our support team, and then a feedback loop here that you can type in that's going to go directly to our product team as well. One of the things that we definitely want to point out is Prokeep is a fantastic tool. but being able to make sure that you're logging in every day is going to be of the essence and critical to your success. So if we click on the Help Center here, we give you a couple of options to make sure that you can utilize that. What I would like to show you is in closing here is how to automate your Prokeep login. So we're going to search for that. And once you've logged in, we're going to show you a couple of great easy steps to add Prokeep as a desktop icon. So when you click on that, it's going to open up in its own dedicated browser. Or you can utilize step 2, which is going to allow you to make Prokeep start up automatically when you log into Windows. So this is two really just great time savers. Make sure that you are doing that once you've logged in, if you haven't logged in yet. For those of you who have already utilizing Prokeep, make sure that you can, utilize these two great ways to get Prokeep started up automatically. If we can just jump back to that, that's going to be in the support and feedback and clicking on the Help Center. And then you want to search for Automate there. Okay, so hopefully we've got some questions. That's the basic use case, or essentially the bread and butter of how most of you should be utilizing Prokeep initially. Now, keep in mind, Prokeep is an extremely powerful tool, and it's something that you can utilize in many different ways, but we wanted to make sure that we can show you, just kind of an overview walkthrough of how we think that you can start utilizing Prokeep immediately and effectively there. All right. Before we go to our question and answer section here, did you know that you can create templates for commonly sent messages? Yes, we can. We just showed you that. It's a great way to kind of make the process more streamlined and efficient. Adding tags to PO numbers, we also showed you that. It's a great way to categorize conversations, or maybe even just kind of leave little notes for your other associates there. Assigning contact labels is something that you can do as well to create. Maybe you've got VIP customers, cash only. You saw that we added an HVAC tag to Michael Scott as well. And then, of course, we also kind of covered the internal messaging and transferring messages to make sure that Prokeep is not just a one-to-one, but this is a database in which you and your team can utilize to collaborate, share information, and really kind of take care of each other, show your customers that you've got, a whole team to take care of their needs and take care of business for them.
Awesome. Thanks
All
so
right,
much,
Josh.
Scott. Appreciate you walking us all through the ins and outs of Prokeep and some of these other options that customers have to take better advantage of our tool. Now we'll go ahead and get to my favorite part of today's session, which is the Q&A portion. We do have about 4 questions or so, it looks like, from various attendees on today's call. It looks like one of these questions is been voted to be the number 1 item we want to answer, which is, what is the difference between web chat and web connect with respect to Prokeep? I'll go ahead and take that question if I may, Scott. So Web Connect is a feature that longer standing customers of Prokeep may have been using, which is essentially you take a small snippet of code, you add that to your website, and with that snippet of code, it will create a widget on your web page. With that widget, what that would do is that would allow the customer to provide their name and their telephone number, and then it would initiate a text message-based conversation on their cell phone. So essentially transferring that interaction from your website to that person's cell phone. Web chat, on the other hand, is the newer and improved and latest and greatest version of Web Connect, whereby we still have that snippet of code that we still add to our website. We still have that chat widget also now available on our website. However, that conversation takes place entirely on your website. It is a live, back and forth web chat based conversation. So with that, it keeps the customer on your website. This is particularly helpful and valuable for those customers who are becoming more and more involved and invested with e-commerce offerings to their customer base, whereby you might be able to go to their website, not only see the inventory on that website, but also want to place an order. So in that instance, if the customer has a question, is this the right piece of equipment that I'm looking for? Or is this perhaps on sale today based on a prior message you sent me earlier in the week about a promotion on this brand? They can send that question in directly through that web chat widget, which is again routed directly into your shared inbox in Prokeep, regardless of the channel. That's one of the main benefits of Prokeep, is we route all those messages into that single pane of glass. And then for our next question, we have a question around faxes. When faxes come through, they don't tell us who the fax is from. Is there any way to fix that? It just says fax machine as the sender. I do see fax machine was added as a contact by someone. Is that the problem? Yes, the long story short to that one is it looks like that telephone number associated to that fax line for that particular customer or that particular business that you're doing business with, someone has taken that phone number and named it simply fax machine. Scott, would you mind showing us maybe a better way of reflecting who that fax machine telephone number is tied to within Prokeep?
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. And I think I'm understanding here that as that customer was created, the that the customer was created as fax machine instead of Tim Ross here. Is that accurate to say? Is that how you heard it too?
Yeah, my understanding is that the fax machine sent a fax over into Prokeep through our eFax
Hmm.
feature. And when that
Right.
fax machine sent that message, the number associated to the fax machine was then created as a contact, I'm assuming with the
Right.
name fax machine.
Absolutely. Yeah. So yeah, absolutely. So this is a good point. So as we kind of showed in the walkthrough, anytime there is a communication that comes in from a phone number, we have the opportunity at that point to label it or to create it as the contact. Sometimes there needs to be some sort of investigative digging. You've got to look at the body or the content of the message in order to ascertain, what company it's from. Oftentimes, it could be from maybe a vendor or a contractor. So it might be a situation, Josh, that we need to kind of do our due diligence, and instead of, let's say in this instance, this is from a fax machine here, that we always have the ability once we click on a phone number to add that contact data here. Let me just move this out of the way, make sure that this is it. And let me see here. So if we take this phone number, okay, so you should have the ability to click on a number here in the details. And then what we can do is, instead of naming this fax machine, we can ascertain from the body of the message or that fax that this is actually Rick Jones. And the company it's coming from is going to be, let's see here, the company is actually going to be Jones Plumbing. So it might sound in that instance again that we kind of just did a default there for just naming it fax machine. Again, question the person who asked the question. Let me know if that's going to be helpful. But again, now since we've tagged that and we've added the contact data, whenever we get any communication from that associated fax number, they will be labeled as the appropriate contact information.
Yep, and it looks like we were able to answer their question, although it's listed as anonymous attendees, but I'm going to assume that's the same person who asked initially. So glad to hear we were able to get that answered for you. Looks like we have another question, which is this person stating that they're unable to transfer messages to other Prokeep team members. Scott, would you mind re-reviewing briefly how it is that we would send a message out of the gate as a new message to a team member of ours? It sounds like it's less a question of, or actually, I say corrected. It is a question of transferring that message. So we have an
Yeah,
existing conversation. We want to transfer it to our coworker. Maybe I'm going away to lunch, for instance.
sure. Yeah. So keep in mind that you only have the ability to transfer a thread that is currently open. So if we have closed threads like the conversation that we had with Michael Scott here, we cannot at this time, or not at this time, but we don't have the ability to transfer a conversation that's already been closed. Um, you do have some options on any of these conversations to, let's say, print this, save it as a PDF, maybe do a screenshot of this. And you do have the ability to take a conversation or any sort of file and then utilize an internal message and share that with them that way. But I don't think that that's what we're talking about here. What I'm going to show you and make sure, again, we want to make sure that we answer the question. In order to do this, I'm going to go ahead and open another conversation with Michael Scott. And I'm going to say, thanks again. Everything's great. Everything is ready. Emoji. And then I'm going to send that away. So what we have now is we have this open conversation. All right. Now, from this point again, and please, if you have the ability to follow along in your Prokeep account, make sure that we're talking about an open thread here. Again, you want to take this open conversation and we want to be able to transfer that by clicking on the ellipses next to close. We would select transfer. And from here, I can start searching for a specific individual, like my plumbing inside salesperson, Jake. I have the ability, again, not to get too deep, but as I remember, you can transfer this to another associated group as well if you have multiple locations. But in this case, again, I'm going to transfer this to my shipping manager, Ryan, and then send that away. So there's the transferred message. I still have visibility of this. I can still interact with the customer, but from this moment forward, any exchange between the customer and Prokeep is going to go and notify the manager, Ryan Giggs, and not myself. So please let us know if that answers the question, or if you're having any issues transferring an open thread. But it sounds like maybe you're possibly going to maybe a closed thread and trying to kind of put that in front of one of your associates, Prokeep inbox as well. Again, let's make sure that we specify that. If you are having an issue with an open thread, that's something I definitely want to make sure that we can support you for, probably offline.
Yeah, great point. So for the individual who submitted that question, again, it's coming through anonymously. Don't hesitate to reach out to our support team, support@prokeep.com. And we're happy to take that conversation offline and make sure you're getting the assistance that you need to ensure that you're able to use that transfer feature. So the next question we have, Scott, is coming from Bruce, which is, do I need different numbers for HVAC and one for appliances? For instance, different contacts, different distribution centers, parts, etc. Bruce, if I'm understanding your question correctly, it sounds like you're referring to having maybe different departments within your organization, an HVAC department or appliances department. We can certainly do that. We could create an HVAC specific group or location, and then we could also have one for appliances. Each of those would then have its own unique telephone number, usually the same number that your customers already use to telephone you or call you. And that number would then be enabled for the ability to send and receive text messages as well as picture messages. But again, if you have any additional context you want to share as it relates to that question, feel free, and we're happy to circle back to it if time allows.
Absolutely. And Josh, if I may, if you look at the presentation right now, for this particular Prokeep United demo, we do have an accounts receivable line. It's going to represent, another phone number, another associated phone number. And if you do have, let's say, a plumbing specific or HVAC specific, then you will have the ability to have access to both of those in your Prokeep account there.
Yep, exactly. It looks like Bruce just chimed in, letting us know it is different business units, although they are under the same roof. So yes, exactly. As you just saw there, Bruce, from what Scott and I were describing, we would just create those two different business units as their own standalone group with their own standalone phone number, and thereby those conversations would route in accordingly. However, you would just want to make sure that you communicate and drive that awareness across your customer base so they know that if they text phone number A, it takes them to HVAC versus phone number B would take them to, say, appliances.
Mm-hmm. Now, if there's only one phone number, just to quickly add, you do have the ability to utilize labels for specific customers. So that way, when they do text in, you'll be able to look at their information. And in this instance, we can say, again, if you add a label that this is an HVAC customer, we can tag them to that. Maybe they're both HVAC and plumbing. So this is not necessarily a way to route it, as I think that you were posing in the original question, but this is a great way to identify if it is helpful to identify Rick Jones or the customers as specific, and those labels can be created by your leadership and manager team.
Yeah, great call out. Appreciate that. Awesome idea. There is another way that we can use labels to help further segment and understand who we're working with and what type of help or questions they may have. All right, so we got a few more questions here. Let's take a look. I think that is it. Actually, this is a good one. What happens if nobody from the parts counter were to respond to a message? So if I'm understanding this question correctly, we receive a message into our shared inbox into Prokeep, customers looking for help, nobody responds. What does Prokeep do to help try to encourage or elicit a response? And perhaps Scott as well, what are some of the ways that Prokeep can help ensure that people who may be away from the counter are still able to be notified in other methods to ensure
Yeah,
that that conversation doesn't sit for too long and that customer maybe takes their business elsewhere.
absolutely. That's a really great point, and that's something that especially if you're or being introduced to Prokeep or logging in for the first time, it's extremely important. So we um, it's really important that uh, the notifications first and foremost are activated here, and wasn't able to show this the first time around, but anytime a message comes to the shared inbox, you do get a visual notification, as we saw during the walkthrough there, but you're also going to get an audible notification. So you want to make sure that you've got Prokeep up, if possible, at an area or at the counter where you have speakers attached to it, maybe in the back office, or you want to make sure that you turn up those speakers loud, because when that text message comes, you are going to get that bell chime. So that's going to be your first indicator that you have control over, meaning that you can click on the URL settings here, and you want to make sure that you've got the notifications on, that you've got your sound on here. If you have these notifications off and the sound off, you're going to get just the visual cue. You're going to have to constantly be looking at Prokeep if you've got it minimized to make sure that you're staying on top of that. However, having those notifications and the sounds on is going to be really helpful, because you're going to be able to hear that. You're going to be able to hear. Prokeep's going to tell you, hey, somebody's waiting to be serviced here. So again, inbox messages and any messages going to an open thread are going to continue to get notifications anytime there's an inbound communication from the customers. That being said, we kind of somewhat touched this in your settings. Each of your personal settings and preferences here, you have the notification section. This is where you can modify the sound that you hear, the interval at which you hear it. So this defaults with the jingle at 30 seconds. We've got a blip as well for now, and then we can select from 1 minute up to 5 minutes. Keeping this at 30 seconds and the jingle on, and making sure again that whoever is going to be the person in charge for that shift, or the multiple people in charge for that shift, you want to make sure that you can hear those notifications. Again, you have a phone that makes a sound, right? And everyone is aware of it when it's ringing. It's very similar in Prokeep. We have these things in place so you can make sure that you understand that the customer is trying to get a hold of you and do business with you. And so you want to make sure that you can hear those things and be alerted to them. Now, that being said, that's your notifications on the desktop. Once you've logged into Prokeep, some of you out there have been able to have the pleasure of utilizing our mobile application. So once you log into Prokeep, if you have mobile access, then you can download the Prokeep application on Android and Apple. That way, if you need to get away or step away from the counter, if you got Prokeep on your mobile phone, then you can be dictated by all of the other ways that you get notified, from telephones, text messages from personal friends, and then text message or alerts from any of your applications. So the Prokeep application is also dictated by the way that you set up your notifications on your mobile device as well. And that's another way that you can kind of stay in the loop as you need to step away from the counter when things get busy, or if you need to go back and pull some gear. So let me know, please let us know if that's helpful. Let us know if you are going in and kind of modifying it and not really seeing a change there. We want to make sure that we can, kind of get your notifications in a place where you're comfortable and you're claiming those threads in a timely manner.
Awesome. Thank you, Scott. So another question that we received is with respect to the ability to take labels and apply them to a bulk or grouping of contacts. I
Sure.
did notice, though, it looks like the user account that you're currently logging into for
Yeah.
your training environment, it doesn't show this. But to answer that question, which I did respond to in the chat with a link as well to our Help Center article to provide some more context on this, yes, this is a feature that is now available. So if you have, say, 100 different points of contact in your contact list and you want to add labels to them in one fell swoop, certain members will have the permission to do this based on what their user permissioning is set to. So not everyone will see this. That's on this call. But if you were to go into the settings area of Prokeep, On the left-hand side, if you see an option that says manage contacts, within that area, there will be a checkbox next to each individual named contact, and you can use that to add a label to whichever of those contacts you select, be it one of them, some of them, or all of them.
And please let us know if, again, some of you may have access to that. But, again, if these questions, you still have some curiosity about them, definitely reach out to us, support@prokeep.com, scott@prokeep.com. We want to make sure that the process is really easy, but we want to make sure that we can answer those questions thoroughly. We've got great resources that we can share with you via the Help Center that we can, provide as well. Definitely let us know if we can offline if we weren't able to answer your questions now.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great point. I think a perfect segue. There were a few questions that we were unable to answer today in this session. As long as those questions were submitted by name, your email address should be associated to that. So I'll make sure to follow up with my colleagues here at Prokeep to ensure that someone reaches out to get that question answered for you. If you did have a question that you pose and it shows as an anonymous attendee, please do make sure to submit that question to our support team so that way we can get you that question answered. And additionally, as far as any feedback-oriented ideas or suggestions, I did see a few of those come through. We'll make sure we get those over to our product team. But again, as Scott showed you, in the app itself, there is that support and feedback section. We do welcome any and all feature enhancements and ideas and suggestions on how we can make Prokeep better for you as you look to do your job more efficiently and effectively. By all means, please use that option to submit that feedback, as it does go directly to our product team and all feedback is reviewed and considered. And this is exactly what you're seeing here on your screen as to how to do that. So with that, I appreciate everyone's time and attendance today. We certainly hope that this was valuable and beneficial to you. Scott, if you just want to quickly take us there to our last slide, this will again all be shared out after today's call. These are a few of the different ways that you can get additional help or assistance from the Prokeep team here. If you do need any assistance, again, following today's call, please email support@prokeep.com. And then we'll be sure to send out the recording as well as the deck, so that way you have access to these links and any of the other items that we touched on during today's session. And again, thank you so much for your time today. We hope you have an awesome rest of your day.
Thanks, everybody.
Take care.